there. I want to move on to something we've been promising, an important issue. Those new voter ID laws, are they keeping some voters away from the polls? Voters in Texas, Mississippi, Kansas, and more than 30 other states were subject to some sort of voter ID law. I'm going to bring back Beth Fooey, senior editor at MSNBC, Basil Smikle, and joining us now, Barbara Arnwine from the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. Good morning, Barbara.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me. You
bet. Thanks for joining us. We wanted to get to this. We do a lot of the results. Obviously, that's the big headline. But we've heard from some folks this is also a headline. One group here, your group, was saying that you got about 18,000 plus calls yesterday, and that's an increase. What can you tell us about the impact of these laws in voting yesterday?
Yes, we actually received, as of 10:30 last night, over 22,000 calls, which is a 10,000 call increase from 2010. And it's clear that what drove the increase in calls was largely these voter ID laws, where there was so much confusion. In Texas, where you had this new strict ID law, we had, all kinds of problems with voters not knowing what to do, how to get the ID, and having problems with figuring out what was acceptable. We also saw in many states where there were no such voter ID laws, poll workers still insisting on voter ID. And that caused problems in Missouri, problems in North Carolina. Those were, problem states because of that. We also saw, a lot of polling places, especially in Harris County, Texas, that did not open on time. In fact, in Connecticut, it was so bad that a court order had to be issued to keep the polls open late until 8:30
Let me jump in, Barbara, and ask you, as people are following these races, do you see any specific races where you think these type of laws may have tipped the balance?
Well, I think they hurt the voters who tried to turn out in Florida, where they had, long lines and a lot of problems in a lot of the precincts. I think that we heard in Missouri that thousands of voters walked away because they couldn't vote. And we heard, problems and concerns in North Carolina. So, yes, and even a few problems out of Virginia in the Hampton Roads, Newport News area. So, yes, there were clearly a lot of voters who got turned away, who walked away, could not vote, or were denied the right to vote.
Stay with us. Let me go to Basil. The Democratic piece, though, here is that you have to organize around this. Has the party done that effectively?
I don't know if they've done that effectively because even in this day and age, it's not just about the restrictive laws, and that's extraordinarily important. It's also what we find is that in many districts where you have large percentages of people of color, you have what's been called sort of unbalanced election resources, meaning that you don't have enough machines, or the machines break too often. You don't have enough staffing, and the average African-American Latino voter waits 15 to 20 minutes longer than anyone else to vote. So it's both the law and the unbalancing of the resources.
And Barbara, when you look at this debate, the Texas law has been viewed as far more legally suspect because it doesn't even take certain types of state-issued ID, as we've covered, like college ID, while it does take gun licenses. Folks who've said that might be so bad even the Supreme Court will reject it. Justice Ginsburg said it is likely a poll tax. Do you expect the Supreme Court to take that case that Eric Holder has pushed?
Yes. We do expect that that case will be decided by the Fifth Circuit. Remember that they never got to the merits of this case. All they did was decide that the case, that the injunction should not be upheld. So there will, of course, be a decision on the merits, and that will go all the way up to the Supreme Court without a doubt. I do want to point out that in 20% of the districts in polling places in Missouri, they ran out of ballots. So that goes to the point that was just being made that a lot of this is a problem of, election administration with African-American and Latino districts being targeted for less resources and not treated with the same respect and the same provision of resources that are needed. So we are worried as the Election Protection Coalition about this impact on our democracy and this impact on voters of color. and other vulnerable voters.
Right, and when we have these kind of election days and day after, we focus a lot on who voted. People want to know the headlines, but this is America. If anyone didn't vote for the wrong reason or for state interference, we got to care about that as well. I know your group does a lot of work on that, so thanks for joining us here at this early hour.
Well, obviously, thank you, and Georgia's got to get it right.
Yeah,
we are looking hard at Georgia. Litigation may be coming.
All right.
Because they really messed up by not processing those 40,000
We're right, and then the 40,000 is a big story, so we're going to be reporting on that as well. Thank you very much. I want to tell you what's up next. Midterm elections could give us